Dear finance professionals and students, welcome to podcast of FCA Deepak Rao, a practicing chartered accountant. Weekly digest for week 2 of July 2024. Tax audit under Section 44AB of the Income Tax Act 1961 is a significant compliance requirement aimed at ensuring transparency and fairness in tax assessments. The Central Board of Direct Tax has amended Form number 3CD and Form number 3CEB wide notifications issued in March 2024. The Direct Tax Committee of ICAI has issued an implementation guide on revision in Form number 3CD and 3CEB. These amendments in the guide pertain to various clauses of Form 3CD as well as Part C relating to specified domestic transactions in the annexure to Form number 3CEB. In a significant announcement, Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is set to present the Union Budget for the financial year 24-25 on July 23, 2024. The budget session will commence on July 22, 2024 and will run until August 12, 2024, subject to parliamentary business requirements. Flush with funds, quick commerce unicorn Zepto is looking to strengthen its leadership ahead of its upcoming initial public offering by hiring several senior-level employees across various categories, said co-founder and chief executive officer Adit Palicha. According to the 21-year-old founder, Zepto's biggest challenge has been bringing together an exceptional team. This comes close on the heels of Zepto's recent $665 million Series F funding round, valuing the company at $3.6 billion. The company is now preparing for its initial public offering in the next 12 to 15 months. India Inc. is expected to post good profit numbers for the April to June quarter, with sectors like automobiles, banking, metals, capital goods and pharmaceuticals doing reasonably well during the period. Information technology players are also expected to chip in with a decent performance thanks to an improving demand environment and better deal execution. Sales of commercial vehicles increased last quarter, driven by strong replacement demand and continued government infrastructure spending. More than 234,000 trucks and buses were sold in the local market in the 3 months ended June, exceeding expectations. This marks a 4.5% rise compared to the 224,000 vehicles sold in the same period last year. RBI met CFOs and auditors to enforce zero tolerance for compliance lapses. Deputy governors stressed accurate balance sheets, aggressive lending risks, and evergreening of loans. Recent CEO talks included credit deposit growth gaps. Governor Das emphasized risk awareness. Digital banking restrictions on Kotak Bank, IIFL Finance, and others were due to regulatory lapses. Arms of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs or MCA have intensified enforcement actions in recent quarters to ensure stricter adherence to rules, even as the government has lessened the compliance burden on India Inc. In the June quarter, various registrars of companies issued a total of 321 orders against firms for alleged lapses under the Companies Act. This figure represents about a fourth higher than the previous quarter, which also saw increased action according to an analysis of public orders. Reliance Retail plans a sports format to rival Decathlon, targeting 8,000 to 10,000 square feet spaces with play areas post-COVID. Athleisure demand surged, filling a retailer gap in India. Leading sports brands saw 35 to 60% sales growth since financial year 21. Decathlon's financial year 23 revenue hit Rs 4,000 crore. The Quality Review Board of ICAI has issued guidance on non-compliance Volume 2, in which instances of various non-compliances regarding standards on quality control, standards on auditing, Audit reports, internal financial controls, and CARO 2020 are covered. The guidance note is classified into two parts. Part 1 contains the observations related to engagement and quality control standards. Part 2 contains the observations related to CARO and internal financial controls. India and Russia aim to boost their bilateral trade to over $100 billion by 2030. The focus is on using national currencies, expanding trade routes, and increasing cooperation in sectors like energy, agriculture, infrastructure, and the digital economy. The agreement, announced at the 22nd Annual Bilateral Summit in Moscow, includes eliminating trade barriers, optimizing customs procedures, and promoting investments and joint projects with a strong emphasis on humanitarian and cultural collaboration. In a significant move aimed at streamlining the process of issuing notices under Section 148 of the Income Tax Act 1961, the Central Board of Direct Taxes has issued new guidelines. These guidelines are set to bring clarity and consistency in the handling of cases involving income that has escaped assessment. Taxpayers can expect a reduction in arbitrary notices and a more predictable timeline for the resolution of their cases. Additionally, the emphasis on documentation and evidence will likely lead to more robust and defensible notices. The government is likely to come up with a production-linked incentive scheme for underground mining equipment and heavy earth-moving machinery by 2025-26. The scheme shall be implemented over a period of 5 years and would be designed to bolster the largely unexplored underground coal mining in the country. As part of its net zero emissions roadmap, state-owned Oil and Natural Gas Corporation plans to offset 9 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions by 2038 at a total cost of Rs 2 trillion. India's largest oil and gas producer announced this initiative, making ONGC the first fossil fuel company in India to outline a detailed plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions over a fixed time period. Banks and non-bank financing companies are likely to report a dip in their profitability in the June quarter due to the impact of the Reserve Bank of India directive on charging interest on loans only from the date of actual disbursement. Lenders typically earn hundreds of crores of rupees by charging interest even before the customer realizes the check, often from the date of sanction of the loan. Adyar Ananda Bhavan, or A2B, an iconic restaurant chain, is looking to tap private equity funds to raise Rs 1,000 to Rs 1,200 crore by diluting about 35% stake. The Chennai-based QSR brand, famous for southern cuisine, is eyeing a valuation of about Rs 3,500 crore. Veda Corporate Advisors will advise A2B in its fundraising process, which is part of a drive to professionalize the family-run business. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs has issued General Circular No. 5/2024 announcing an extension of the deadline for filing web form PAS 7. This circular provides updated guidelines and timelines that companies need to adhere to regarding the disclosure of shares and convertible instruments. Uncertainty over the election outcome and the union budget, coupled with absence of HDFC Limited, led to a more than one-third decline in corporate bond issuance during the April to June period compared to the previous year. According to Prime Database, corporate bond issuance fell 36% in the first quarter of the current financial year of 2024-25, amounting to Rs 1.88 trillion compared to Rs 2.95 trillion in the same period last year. Earlier, SEBI allowed equity-oriented exchange-traded funds and index funds to make any investment in the listed securities of group companies of the sponsor, which is in excess of 25% of the net assets of the scheme. Now, SEBI has decided that equity-oriented funds and index funds based on widely tracked and non-bespoke indices can make investments based on the weightage of the constituents of the underlying index. However, such investments shall be capped at 35% of the NAV of the scheme. Sales of electric cars in June plunged 13.5% from the year earlier, having suffered a marginal drop in May, triggering fears that the Indian market may be following global trends. After last year's euphoria, domestic sales slumped to 20% growth in the January to June period to 46,845 units. That's down from a 135% surge in the same period last year, prompting Tata Motors and others to recalibrate expectations. The Employers Provident Fund Organization, or EPFO, has recovered Rs 61 crore from SpiceJet towards Provident Fund dues, with the remaining amount under assessment. SpiceJet denies the EPFO's claim of partial recovery and states that all dues have been deposited. The airline acknowledges a lack in some deposits but affirms clearing dues as a priority. EPFO has initiated an inquiry for penal damages and interest on delayed payments. Compliance with monthly filing deadlines is crucial to avoid interest charges of 12% per annum. SEBI has outlined the filing requirements for alternative investment funds, or AIF schemes that opt for a dissolution period to deal with their unliquidated investments. AIF schemes entering into the dissolution period must file an information memorandum through a merchant banker before the expiry of the liquidation period or additional liquidation period of the scheme. The information memorandum and due diligence certificate format is attached as an annexure to this circular. The circular shall be effective immediately. Canadian investor Brookfield said it has bought a controlling stake in Leap Green Energy, a Tamil Nadu-based renewable energy company. Brookfield said it has made an upfront commitment to make an equity investment of over $200 million in Leap Green through a subscription of new shares and acquisition of shares from current shareholders. Additionally, Brookfield has the option to infuse further $350 million of incremental equity capital to support future growth of the business. Mumbai-based sleep solutions startup The Sleep Company is setting its sights on profitability and a potential initial public offering as it rapidly expands its physical presence across India. The company, which recently opened its 100th company-owned, company-operated store in just 2 years since venturing into offline retail, is aiming to achieve profitability by financial year 25 end and go public within the next 2 to 3 years. The Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, through notification number 12/2024, Central Tax, dated July 10, 2024, has introduced a new optional facility allowing registered taxpayers to amend details in Form GSTR-1 for a tax period and/or declare additional details before filing the return in Form GSTR-3B. This amendment aims to streamline the process for registered taxpayers, ensuring accurate and timely filing of returns. The Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs has issued notification number 12/2024, Central Tax, dated July 10, 2024, to further amend Rule 142 of the CGST rules. This amendment, effective from July 10, 2024, specifies the procedures for handling voluntary tax payments made by registered taxpayers and outlines the process for issuing orders and acknowledgements by the proper officer. The Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs issued notification number 12/2024, Central Tax, dated July 10, 2024. This notification, exercised under the powers conferred by Section 164 of the CGST Act, introduces a new proviso to Sub-Rule 1 of Rule 62 of the CGST rules, which affects the filing deadlines for taxpayers under the composition levy scheme. The newly inserted proviso states, provided that the return in Form GSTR 4 for a financial year from financial year 2024-25 onwards shall be required to be furnished by the registered person till the 30th day of June following the end of such financial year. Bank credit grew 14% while deposits grew only 11% year on year, highlighting concerns over asset liability mismatches. RBI emphasizes the need for banks to address the gap. The RBI governor stresses the importance of maintaining a balance between assets and liabilities. In its efforts to crack down on unsolicited stock recommendations and advisors, the Securities and Exchange Board of India has issued warning letters to around 20 unauthorized investment advisors since May. The market regulator's actions come at a time when it's trying to draw sharp lines between registered advisors and those giving stock recommendations without any authorization. This podcast is sponsored by Sound of CA. We share because we care. Vande Mataram, Jai Hind.